in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, as Chris Farley said in Tommy Boy, I've seen a lot of stuff, but that was awesome. Oh, man. Dr. Fauci and some of the greatest minds in America, wonderful public servants, grilling him. Yeah, I know, the Fifth Amendment, all that stuff, but it was, you learn so much from the body language of that man. He is guilty. He is ashamed. He is sad. He almost was crying. He was almost, his conscience is eating at him. It's all coming out. It's all coming out. Everything secret is becoming known. All of his little games, all of his lies, all of his greed, all of his fame, whorishness, whatever. Everybody can see it now. Everybody. And I guess everybody will see everything at some point. It says that in the Bible. Oh, boy. It really was astonishing. I give tremendous credit to some superstar senators and some you may not have heard of. I thought Senator Moody, a female from Florida, newly appointed to the job, was fabulous, reminding everybody that we work for the American people, not the other way around. If you look at Fauci's book here, he has contempt for the people. He has contempt for those elected. Rick Scott was stellar. Josh Hawley. And, they're not just, it's dramatic, but I'm learning things. I'm learning things every step of the way. I did not know that he was trying to get a great big fat grant, actually rather an award, that there are these crazy awards floating around the federal government that you can apply for. He applied for and won like $1 million in cash prizes. Like COVID was some sort of big game show for him. I just thought it was magnificent. And America was served today. I don't know what the hell's going to happen to Fauci. He looked, I don't know. Look, I don't want anybody to harm themselves. I would love it if he were in prison, but he just looked like, his attorney was a fool. They tried to blow up the whole thing. All right, but as juicy as that was, and we will get to it, juicy and informative. All right, totally informative. Well, actually, let's get right to it. I wanted to do something on Mamdani. About 15 people have told me about this Michael Goodwin piece in the Post, and it is spot on. But do me a favor. We got a good chunk between Senator Rick Scott of Florida, Republican, and Anthony Fauci. Fauci will not answer any questions. We know the truth. We know he paid for that gain-of-function research. He arranged for it. We paid for it. He laundered the money. We were paying for gain-of-function research in the Wuhan lab. When the COVID came out, he lied, said it was from the wet market downtown, right? That delicatessen, that crazy delicatessen. It's coming from there. And if it's coming from there, it's not coming from the Wuhan lab. He didn't want anybody looking around the Wuhan lab because we, bloody hell, through the NIH created this damn thing. It is incredible. Why the hell would we be paying the Chinese and actually assisting them? Did you hear the part about embryos and baby parts and mice that we were sending in the mail to China? It's all sick and disgusting. It really is. But this was a glorious day. I'm fascinated by his body language. Like, what does that mean? Look at his... I think I know shame when I see it. I saw shame. But do me a favor. Let's go for that. This is a big one. This is a fat one, okay? This is between Rick Scott and Dr. Fauci. Let's go.
So let's start with the use of personal Gmail accounts in Dave Moran's relationship with Peter Daszak. Dave Moran tells Peter Daszak, president of Equal Alliance, and you've got this in front of you. It's Exhibit 1. And it's already in the record as part of this. It says, quote, P.S. I forgot to say that there's no worry about FOIA. I can either send stuff to Tony on his private Gmail or hand it to him at work or at his house. He is too smart to let colleagues send him stuff that could cause trouble. Dr. Fauci, did Dr. Moran's relationship with Peter Daszak concern you? Yes or no?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Did Dave Morantz ever bring documents to your house?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Did you ever receive a text about your work at NIAID to your personal cell phone?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Did any text about your work at NIAID that went to your personal cell phone ever become part of federal records?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Did you maintain a personal email account while serving as director?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Did you ever receive work-related communications on that Gmail account from David Morantz?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Did you preserve any work-related communications on that Gmail account from David Morantz?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Did David Morantz ever provide you with documents outside of those two ways that would violate NIH policy for FOIA compliance?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Now let's look at two other communications. You emailed David Morantz on January 26, 2020, quote, "It is important that I speak with you tonight. Please call me at home." This is part of Exhibit 2 that you have in front of you. This email is sent the same day, the exact same day you write in an internal document, quote, "Now we know the market was not the source, it was the amplifier," unquote. Would you call the origins of COVID-19 a substantive issue?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Did you discuss COVID-19 origins with David Morantz on this phone call?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Now let's take a closer look at the last time you testified before Congress. This is part of what you have in front of you as Exhibit 4, which is part of the record. In June 2024, you testified to Dr. Morantz, quote, "Was not an advisor to me on institute policy or other substantive issues. Furthermore, his office is located in a different building from that of the NIAID director," unquote. Is that still your testimony today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
So today, under oath, your testimony remains that Dr. Morantz was not an advisor to you on institute policy or substantive matters.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Now, I've got Exhibit 5, which you have in front of you. On October 24, 2021, David Morantz texted you to provide information about and advocate for the controversial EcoHealth Alliance grant. You thank him and tell him that you will check the information. Would you agree that this shows an advisory relationship between David Morantz and yourself?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Do you agree that you two were discussing a substantive issue?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
If documentary evidence establishes that Dr. Morantz advised you regarding EcoHealth Alliance, COVID origins, or grant policy, then your June 2024 testimony would have been inaccurate, correct?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Is there any document in your possession today that would contradict your prior congressional testimony?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Have you deleted, destroyed, or instructed anyone to destroy records after learning Congress is investigating these matters?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Are you aware of anyone who did?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
As you know, Dr. Morantz now faces charges related to destroying records while you distance yourself from him. Is that fair to a decades-long friend?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
When is the last time you spoke to him?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
In hindsight, are you disappointed how you handled COVID? Do you have any regrets?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What do you think, huh? What do you think? And then he sums it up. Then he goes a little bit further, and he talks about the personal price. That his entire family is paid for this one. And it's a significant one. It's a significant one. People have, it's rocked their world. Now, do me a favor, if you got that, Justin, I want to go back to the previous question from Fauci. Actually, let's skip that. Let's just go right to, Josh Hawley, if you don't mind. All right, Josh Hawley, another superstar. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. Cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
That it? I want to go further. He actually outlines how he made all this crazy money, how he did this, that, and the other thing. It is and the body language is so awesome to behold. It is an amazing thing to see this guy doing what he's doing, and I just think back to all the stuff he said every step of the way. The warning signs were there all along. I found this little bad boy where here he is blaming Republicans just as a group. Republicans don't do what we tell them to do. Well, this is not how it works. That's how it works in an authoritarian country. This is back when Fauci was knocking door to door, trying to make house calls for a photo op with the vaccine. He was armed with the vaccine. Listen to this one. Cut 2, please. Cut 2.
What are we going to do about those other states?
Oh, my God. They're going to keep the outbreak smoldering in the country. It's so crazy. I mean, they're not doing it because they say they don't want to do it. They're Republicans. They don't like to be told what to do.
Right. And
we got to break that, unpack that.
You got to break that. How are you going to break that, Fauci? I don't know, maybe get us shadow banned, maybe get us sued, maybe get us, diminish us like crazy conspiracy theorists. You did all that stuff, didn't you? And what the hell else? All right, it was a fabulous day. Congratulations to Senator Hawley, Senator Rand Paul, Senator Moody. Senator Johnson from Tennessee was great. It was like that moment where the senators stood up to General MacArthur. back in the 1950s, and that guy was getting way out of line and needed to be slapped around a little bit. Okay, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Fauci had a fleet of lawyers with him. I think one of them was Deborah Katz. I'm not sure. Got to double check. She looked just like Deborah Katz. Now, who is Deborah Katz? Deborah Katz is a left-wing lunatic who hangs around Christine Blasey Ford, and not just at work. Okay, they're friends. All right, Rand Paul, physician Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, libertarian kind of. Anyway, this is his moment, and it's not just today. This is not grandstanding. There is so much history and facts and knowledge that these guys have, and they have been kind of investigating and going through Fauci and the testimony and the real record, and they've known this guy was a phony and a fraud for a long time. He may have been a decent public servant at one point many decades ago, but he lost his way, seduced by fame and fortune. Let's go to Rand Paul being kind of set off by all this stuff, and the attorney, his rotten attorney, grandstanding little guy there. Cut 14, please. Cut 14.
Know whether or not you've changed your mind on whether or not the benefits of gain-of-function research outweigh the risks.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
The chairman has denied your assertion of privilege and directed you to answer, but you nonetheless refuse and stand on privilege despite the existence of the pardon. The committee will have to consider after this hearing what appropriate action should be taken against you for the failure to testify after being directed to do so. It's against the law to obstruct an investigation of Congress. There will be repercussions to your refusal to testify today. Senator Peters. You're not recognized. You're not recognized. If you are unruly, you will be removed from the proceeding. You are not recognized, and you are not recognized, sir. Sir, you are not recognized. You are not recognized. Security, we'll hold off. But you will respect these proceedings. You were told not to sit at the table. You insist on sitting at the table, and we told you would not be recognized. You are not invited here for testimony, sir. You are being disruptive. Would you behave this way in a courtroom? No, because the judge would put you in jail. I can't do that today, but I can have you escorted from the premises. So I would say, sir, sit quietly and don't say another word. I said sit quietly. You are not recognized. Another word and you're gone.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear what the attorney has to say.
He is not recognized by the committee or the chair. If he speaks again, he will be removed from the room. This testimony is from Anthony Fauci. This is not a game with his lawyers. He can advise. His lawyers can give him advice. He's got a half dozen here. They're all allowed to talk to him.
Yes.
All right? Yeah. But the attorneys are not recognized. In fact, the attorney was told not to sit at the table, and he's not obeying that recommendation. There's a row behind you, sir. That's where you were told to sit, and you're not. And now you're disrupting the proceedings. And so, look, this is the way Anthony Fauci wants to be remembered. For a lawyer not listening to the rules. That's the way you want to be remembered, and that's what you're going to do. You are not recognized, sir. Security, please remove him from the room.
All right. Get him out. Get him out. He's not resisting.
Let the record state that Dr. Fauci will still have the advice of the other half a dozen attorneys that he brought along today.
And then he said, Rand Paul said, look, I was willing to listen to this guy. I mean, I would have accepted his apology. You know, mistakes were made. You can't own up to them. So we hear him say the Fifth Amendment about 111 times. Now, you're allowed to invoke your Fifth Amendment, however, not when you have been pardoned. All of these questions are about the period covered by the pardon. And there's law going all the way back to the late 1800s. Once you accept a pardon, you are essentially absolved from any crimes under the pardon guidance and the specifications of the pardon. And it was for alleged offenses between 2014 and I think 2025. Fauci was desperate to get that pardon. But once you accept it, a couple of things. It's an admission of guilt. All right, that's according to the Supreme Court in the, I think, like 1919, sometime right around World War I, they came out with that. Fauci did not have to accept the pardon, by the way, but he desperately wanted it. And you are not then, you actually kind of renounce your Fifth Amendment privileges when the federal government asks you questions, because you can't technically incriminate yourself, because what you say cannot be used against you in a court of law. Isn't that fascinating? So, hey, he had a couple of guys, obviously, Democrats sticking up for him. And one of them was this character, Kim, Senator Kim from New Jersey. He recently, I guess he's filling Bob Menendez's seat, who's busy in prison right now. And he read this very obnoxious poem, and a lot of people invoke this poem. I can't stand this poem. It's by Teddy Roosevelt, and it's the Man in the Arena speech. And you're supposed to like it. It's regarded as a very beautiful, effective kind of, rah-rah poem. But if you really listen to it, it's not. It's a celebration of those in power. And they mock those who are not in power, essentially. They have disdain for those who are not in power. This is Senator Kim. What's his first name? Andy? Does anybody know? I'll find out. Democrat of New Jersey. Go ahead.
I just want to end by just reading a portion of this because I think it's important as we're thinking about how to be able to treat public servants through this country, to think through this. And in the words of Teddy Roosevelt saying, it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strive valiantly, who errs but comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumphs of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Thank you for your service, Dr. Fauci. I yield back.
Those poor and timid souls, right? Oh, it's the man in the arena. The poor and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Some people don't get off on, running for office and winning and losing in that respect. Some people just want to do their job, do it well. They get satisfaction from a job well done, right? Maybe it's, fixing something on a car. Maybe it's, varnishing a chair, sweeping a carpet, vacuuming a carpet. Maybe it's writing something. Not everything that one writes goes viral. Maybe it's just quiet satisfaction from providing for your family and raising children or being with friends. There's no victory or defeat in being with friends and raising a family. I mean, every day is a struggle. There are highs and lows in everybody's life. But you see how the critic, by the way, nobody has it easy. All right. The critics, people come after the critics. People come after the. Yeah, I noticed this a long time ago before I became a bit of a critic, and I'm a critic, but I just find it very self-serving, and the politicians love that speech because it glorifies them themselves. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. I would actually like to go through the second part here. This the second part of Josh Hawley when he really, really rips into him and enlightens us along the way about all the money. I did not realize that. Go ahead.
You did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. Cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
You remember Greg Folkers? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Your chief of staff is the answer. Do you remember Patricia Conrad? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
She was your personal assistant. And what were these individuals doing in the depth of the pandemic in November of 2020 when millions of Americans were suffering from COVID? What were they doing? I tell you what they're doing. Folkers was on your behalf soliciting and gathering information for a cash award. Let's look at it. We've got his email right here, right over my shoulder. Folkers says, I'm working on this nomination for the Dan David Award for Fauci. We need to beef up the COVID part. Do you have language in the can that you could share that delineates how we responded in new ways to COVID? He sends this to multiple federal employees. What was the Dan David Award? Do you remember, Doc?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
It was a $900,000 cash award. $900,000 cash award. And he got it because he used federal employees to get it. And this wasn't the only award, was it, Dr. Fauci? In fact, you applied for and received at least 8 other federal cash prizes on federal time using federal employees and federal resources. Here they are over my shoulder. Besides the Dan David Award, you've got the Partnership for Public Service. You've got the Adelson Prize. You've got the Smithsonian Award. You've got the National Academy of Medicine's Award. You've got the CDC Foundation. In fact, you turned your staff into a full-time application machine. You actually wrote to people and said, do you think maybe I'd qualify? And you got cash for all of this. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 employees, was it? In fact, you used 8 separate federal employees on federal time using federal resources to solicit cash awards. Isn't that true?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Here they are right over my shoulder. Here's all of them. The people that you use, federal employees, so that you could go and get cash money. And the most hilarious part is that you weren't content to even dragoon them into applying for all of these cash awards. You then had them go out to the ethics agencies and ethics watchdogs and demand that you be able to get the money. That's right. We've got it in your emails. Your staff and employees on federal time, using federal resources, being paid with federal dollars, are soliciting cash for you. And then they're turning around and saying to the agency, we don't want just an answer. We want to get to yes, because Fauci wants the money. He wants it. We want to get to yes, and yes takes time. This is your chief of staff again, using federal email to pressure the agency's own ethics people so that you could get money, so that you could get rich. And it violated the law, didn't it, Dr. Fauci? Didn't it? It violated the law, didn't it? It is a question. You can answer. Go ahead.
On the advice of counsel.
On the advice of counsel. On the advice of counsel, I'd rather not get into trouble. On the advice of counsel. Let's see if there's anything else that... I'm still going through it. It was... The body language was really something. Half the time he looked like Mr. Burns. You know, truly like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Anybody ever see that? Where Burns is... Well, Burns is a strange character, like an ogre, like a very rich guy, and he does this thing with his hands. The fingertips touch the fingertips. Very interesting to see. All right, I got to come back here local because I have gotten about 10 emails today about Michael Goodwin and how absolutely brilliant his piece is. Shall we? Michael Goodwin. Mamdani is carving out a historic path. An NYC mayor who hates the city, its people, and is trying to destroy both. Over its long history, New York City has had every kind of mayor under the sun. Most have been reasonably competent. Some have been bold and brilliant, and some turned out to be crooked to the core. But to my knowledge, Zoran Mamdani is in a class of one. He is the first mayor in modern times who appears to hate the city and many of the 8 million people who call it home. As he constantly makes clear, he is not here to fix things. He is here to smash the city as it is and build a socialist utopia in its place. A troubling result is that 7 months into his tenure, Mamdani remains in constant campaign mode. His appearances, public remarks, are aimed exclusively at his supporters here and his leftist outposts around America and the world. Governing in the broad public interest of the people who actually live in the city does not appear to be part of his plan. What does interest him is creating and seizing opportunities to keep his base fired up as he pursues the radical political and social agenda that carried him to City Hall last year. And he is a foe of the 9/11 families. He surely counts his class warfare approach as smart, but in fact he is squandering the opportunity to expand the goodwill he inevitably will need. It's a cliche, but true, that there never is a second chance to make a good first impression. The impression Mamdani is making to the unconverted is hugely negative. A glaring example is that many 9/11 families say they do not want the mayor to attend the 25th anniversary. No mayor has ever faced such a moment. Although the mayor speaks in platitudes about his goals of free this and that, his hatred of Israel is an obsession that is never far beneath the surface. The most recent of many examples is his decision to go public with his desire to arrest Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he sets foot in the 5 boroughs. When he spoke, the mayor already knew he had no authority to do that because the United States does not recognize the International Criminal Court, which indicted Netanyahu, as President Trump reminded him. But the mayor threw a bone to the anti-Semites in his camp by saying he was still searching for a way to make it happen. Then, when city lawyers told him again he had no plans, no options, he released an odious video in which he said Benjamin Netanyahu is not welcome in New York City, nor is any other war criminal at large, he said. He has also accused Israel of starving children and intentionally bombing hospitals in Gaza. As for Hamas's kidnapping, killing, and raping while vowing to eliminate Israel, Mamdani remains speechless. Now, I did hear him once say, when goaded, when prompted, oh, yeah, that was a war crime. But you have to ask him, and there's no, you mean if that was a war crime, well, what about arresting the chief of Hamas? Where is that? In effect, the video turned the limits on his power into an opportunity to remind Jew haters he is still with them. New York, with nearly 1 million Jewish residents, has the largest Jewish population of any city in the world, and yet the mayor is trying to otherize them. The only thing he learned from history is how to do that. Although sheer incompetence remains a special concern given his youth and lack of experience in any serious job, his determination to turn the Jewish state into a permanent punching bag reveals a malevolent core. Creepy and weird. Another revolting habit is his fixation on wealthy New Yorkers. His video mocking Ken Griffin, the billionaire investor and hedge fund owner, was indeed creepy and weird, as Griffin said. Standing outside Griffin's Manhattan apartment and crowing about "we're going to tax the rich" is how the mayor celebrated the pied-à-terre tax Governor Hochul and lefty legislators gave him to fund his big spending plans and close the city's budget gaps. He has now flexed that taxing power again with the City Hall letter to nearly 1 million households threatening a huge surcharge if the occupants fail to prove the home is their primary residence. A friend who got one such letter, despite being a full-time resident in the house he has owned for about 40 years, sees it as especially mean-spirited. noting that the letter is tilted non-primary residence property surcharge. It demands all kinds of proof within 3 weeks from those who wish to apply for an exemption. In other words, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. My friend says the city already has the proof it needs in his tax returns, which show his home is his primary residence and he is a city resident. But still, he must prove he's not subject to the surcharge by submitting a raft of documents, some of which are 4 decades old. He adds that lawyers will have a field day helping people negotiate the minefield of demands and threats of huge surcharges. He also wonders if the bureaucratic exercise is at least partially designed to drive people out of the city by making it so onerous and expensive to stay. Michael Goodwin, God bless you. 800-848-9222. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, went a little bit long with some of my, my fascination, my fanaticism about this Fauci stuff. It's great. It's great. There's so much truth. I got my 450 pages of diary right in front of me, the diary of Anthony Fauci. I'm only about maybe 15% of the way. I know some people have gotten through. Now, a lot of it is cut and paste. He cut and paste like his press releases and stuff like that in there. He cut and paste some of his media schedule, transcripts from his media interviews. I haven't gotten to the part where Kim Kardashian is mentioned. Was he really pleased to meet Kim Kardashian? I mean, once you meet the Kardashians, you kind of know that fame means absolutely nothing. They're not the most impressive people in the world. It's also interesting that they don't sing, they don't dance, right? All they seem to do is make sex tapes with basketball players every now and then, and branding. Do we even have that TV show, The Kardashians, anymore? I don't think so. Anyway, they don't need it. They're rich. I don't resent them. Well, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. When they came on the Good Day Show, oh my goodness gracious, the prep. They had security. They had advanced teams. It was like we were hosting the Pope. It was a little much. A little much for me. All right. So we have to make a quick pivot. I will come back at the top of the hour. Much more Fauci stuff. The Biden audio is also hot. And it is a disgrace that this is not getting more mainstream media pickup, this diary. Tonight you'll see it on the news, and they'll just pitch it as a Republican versus Democrat. You know, Republicans pounced. It'll just be a Republicans versus Democrat type thing tonight, and then they'll be over with it. This is a guy that, you know, they made household name famous for about 2 years, and he has just confessed to all kinds of things with his diary. Lies. Egomania, and they're ignoring it. They are so broken. But we know that, right? What did I say? It's like moving to the jungle and complaining about the humidity if you're going to complain about the media. We know they're stupid. We know they're broken. It's always going to be that way. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?